Hey guys, this is James with thegraymattersblog.com coming to you on another one of my walks through the beautiful South Texas woods. The video today is going to be called The Martial Art of Writing, or Everything I Need to Know About Writing I Learned from the Martial Arts. And the reason for this video is because I recently found out that a really good friend of ours and one of our martial arts instructors, Jared Fostro, passed away recently. He was an amazing guy and taught us both a lot. He was one of our two big martial arts instructors, him and Grandmaster Jason Wadley, who JR taught us ninjutsu, which the specific school is Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu, and Master Wadley taught us Taekwondo, two martial arts that we both did. And martial arts were a huge part of our life and still are. And one of the things is, like I said, to give you an idea of how big a part, we were literally married in a dojo. Master Wadley, was a good friend of ours, let us actually use his dojo to get married so that we didn't have to pay for a hall because we were really broke when we got married. So, like I said, that gives you an idea of how big a part of our lives these guys were. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff they taught us and how the stuff that you learn in martial arts really follows you everywhere and can apply to everything. And one of the first things, and this is something I've talked about in these videos a little bit before, is learn by teaching. As soon as they teach you a move in most martial arts, whether it's a block or a kick or a punch or whatever, they will have you learn it. Then they will immediately pair you with someone who's lower belt who doesn't know it yet and have you start teaching it to them. And the reason they'll do that is because people learn best by teaching. When I have to explain it to you, when I have to figure out a way to put it in words so that you can understand it, that's going to really help me figure out a better understanding of it. And that's why I do a lot of these videos. That's why I do a lot of the lessons I've learned while writing on the blog, things like that. Because by trying to help other people understand this stuff, I increase my understanding of it. So while I'm helping other people, it's really helping me. And that also applies both in teaching and just in life. When you're helping others, you're really helping yourself. There's always this return on investment for that sort of thing. So that's a big motivation behind why I do what I do, why I make these kinds of videos specifically, is because the more I help teach others, the more I learn about becoming a better writer. Another thing is, and me and Sharon joke about this sometimes, about how being a writer and levels of being a writer, which I talked about in my last video, is kind of like belts in martial arts. When you're a white belt, you've just started, but you're out there, you're doing it, you're participating, but you have no clue what you're doing. And then, it kind of progresses up. Sharon and I both have black belts in Taekwondo, so we've gone through all the ranks. And at least in the system that we practiced, at green belt, you start sparring. And one of the things is that's the belt where you start getting hit. And that's a big lesson we learned from martial arts that carries on to being a writer, is you have to be willing to get hit, and the only way to get good at getting hit is to get hit. And you have to overcome your fear of it, and the only way you overcome your fear of it is by doing it. And as a writer, you're going to get hit a lot. You're going to give people your writing, and they're going to have criticism. You're going to give people your writing to read, and they're just going to be rude or mean or tell you it's terrible, and that's just the sparring level. That's just low level. Then whenever you actually decide you're going to traditionally publish, now you've got to start sending yourself to agents and publishers, and they're going to be, you're going to get hit really hard. That's the equivalent of becoming a red belt and getting hit in the head. So once you actually start putting your stuff out there, you get messages just saying, yeah, this is terrible. Or, I have no interest in this whatsoever. And that's really hard for a writer to take. But as a writer, you have to do it. You have to take these hits because you learn from it, you grow from it, and it makes you so much a better writer. Sharon and I actually have a thing that because some of our stuff we are going to try to get traditionally published. And as soon as we get our very first rejection letter, we're going to print it and frame it. Because that's the attitude you have to have, is look, I am here to get punched in the face. I am not afraid, bring it on. And that really has to be part of it. There was a quote I recently read that I thought was really great, that saying you wanted to be a writer and not face rejection is like saying you want to be a boxer and not get hit. It just doesn't work that way. You don't get to have one but not the other. So it's kind of that tenacity, that perseverance that you learn in martial arts. That's super important as a writer. Another thing we learned is that you keep practicing even when you don't think it's working. You would be given a move, a new kick or a new stance or a new kata to perform, And you would be practicing and practicing, and just for the longest time, it just would not make sense to you. You would be trying to do it, and you just couldn't get it down, but you just keep working, and you keep going at it. And then suddenly one day you walk into the dojo and just boom, it makes sense. Everything snaps into place, and that move that you could not do yesterday, suddenly you just do it perfectly. It just, everything sudden, just your mind snaps and you suddenly make sense. And it's the same with writing. If you are trying to write, whether it's a specific skill or whether it's just writing in general, whether it's your, whether it's your action descriptions or your love scenes or your dialogue or whatever you're working on, just keep working on it. Even if you don't think it's working, even if you don't think you're getting anywhere, keep writing, keep putting words on paper, keep moving forward, because eventually it's all going to snap, it's all going to make sense, and then after, a ton of hard work, you're an overnight success. So it kind of comes all at once really fast if you put in the long, hard work. And that's, I think, something a lot of people need to keep in mind, because a lot of people, when they start struggling, they give up. And when you start struggling, that means you're on the right path. And kind of the most important thing, and this was something told to me by some of the highest people in martial arts, in ninjutsu, which was, like I said, the specific system is Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu. The head of that art, the head of the entire art in Japan, his name is Masaka Hatsume, who, of course, we call Hatsume Sensei. Never got to meet him personally, but I talked to but I was trained by a lot of people who were trained by him, and watched some videos of him and that kind of thing. Super interesting guy, has some really cool history, but not going into that. And one of his biggest advice, when he said, what is the one advice you would give to anyone training in martial arts? And his advice was keep going. And this is something that's been echoed to me from other really great martial artists. It's always keep going. And I think it's important to remember that there's two elements to that. Keep going when things are going poorly, and keep going when things are going well. When things start going poorly and you're struggling, there's this temptation to quit. Oh, it's not going to work. And that's when it's really important to keep going. Because if you keep pressing, if you keep doing the right things the right way, you will get there. It's inevitable. It might take you longer. It might be harder, but you will succeed if you just keep going. The other side of that, though, is when things are going well, when you feel like you've learned everything you can learn, when you feel like, oh man, I'm doing great, this is all working amazingly, you also need to keep going, because there's always another level. There's always another place to go. You can always improve. You can always get better. And there's that temptation to be satisfied with where you are. There's another quote I read recently that I shared that said, you didn't come this far to only get this far. No matter where you are, there is a place up from that. Never be satisfied. Always be struggling. Always be trying to get to that next level, because there's always a next level. And if you're satisfied with where you are, you're going to stay where you are. And it's that idea that, never be afraid to start and never stop. There's a saying that I've always really liked, that's start where you are, use what you've got, do what you can, and never stop. And I feel like you're never too early to start, and it's never the right time to stop. And when it comes to writing, that is so true. There's not a writer out there who's not still improving. Stephen King is still improving. Larry Correia is still improving. I mean, every author out there that you love, Terry Pratchett was improving up until the day he died, even though he was struggling with Alzheimer's disease. And you can always see it in their books too. You see this improvement. You see where they just constantly keep getting better and better because they're practicing their art. And so anyway, guys, that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I was, thinking about my friend JR, who had passed away, and all the stuff I learned from him and my other martial arts instructors, and just how that pertains to being a writer. So guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope that was kind of interesting. And if you guys can please give us a like and a subscribe, the more subscribers we get, that really helps us out. Leave us a comment on this video. That also really helps us out, telling me about your experience. If you have experience as a martial artist, how did yours differ from mine? And I will catch you guys on my next walk.